Hello there. So, watch the movie Dawn on everyone's recommendation because it's SKR as a villain, and I wanted to see him as a villain. This movie didn't really work out for me, yet it did work out for me. So, it took way too long to get to where it wanted to go. It's basically Face Off. That is what this movie is. It's Face Off, and I did enjoy it, but it took me a while to get to enjoy it, which is where the issue lies. Like most Indian cinema, it doesn't know when it starts, so it spends a lot of time with SKR taking people out, being a villain, but it's hard to accept him as a villain because the way he's acting, the way he's I think it would have been better if he was either the over-the-top crazy or just the smiling villain. I think either way would have worked for him, but it was like he was playing both. He was the smiling villain and then over-the-top crazy and then the calculating villain. So he was like playing a bit of everything, which kind of bothered me. They shouldn't have spent 40 minutes to get up to the beginning of the movie, because literally they could have spent the first 40 minutes in 5 to 10 minutes. They could have introduced all that in 5 to 10 minutes and it would have been far quicker, far more fast paced. And why I say it's Face Off is because literally there's a doppelganger who looks exactly like him, who they're going to have pretend to be him so he can leak the information of the organization to the officer. There are a few extra things sprinkled in, which are spoilers. There's a guy, like the kid apparently is the son of a guy who was betrayed by a cop, and the cop is apparently betraying also Dawn himself. There's a bunch of little stuff that go into it, which seems overly convoluted, and it really is overly convoluted. The only thing that made it amazing for me was the end of the film. As soon as I got to the end of the movie, I was able to remember all my complaints from the beginning because, well, except for the first 40 minutes of the film, because here the character, Dawn, was an excellent fighter. He was crazy, willing to do anything, and then they basically get someone from the slums who happens to look like him to pretend to be him. And then what does that guy from the slums do? He starts fighting like a boss. He starts doing all this crazy stuff that he never learned. So it's just aggravating, and then the way it ends is like, oh, okay, now everything makes sense. I liked it because I was immediately reminded of Face Off, so I was thinking Face Off the whole time. I didn't expect them to change it up. However, the one I was watching it with, bless her, she absolutely saw it coming, and I think that's why I enjoyed it a little more, because she predicted it before I did, because I'm so used to seeing things coming a mile away that it was just like, okay, that made it worth it. Honestly, seeing the very end of the film made everything else worth it, except for all the fluff. There was a lot of fluff in the film, which kind of was aggravating. I kind of wish SKR would have been playing just a legit one type of villain instead of every single one across the board. The smiling villain, the notorious calculating villain. He just played everything, and I didn't like that. It's like just pick one and go with it. But in the end, I was like, okay, with the end of this film, it became worth it. I absolutely enjoyed it. However, I do want to watch Face Off now to compare it, because it's like the director is an absolute fan of Nicolas Cage films, because it's Face Off, and then it's like Con Air came out, and then he literally took a scene from Con Air when they're in the plane, when you have a ton of convicts in a plane. It's just like, that's the dumbest thing ever. None of them are even handcuffed. It was just like so ridiculous, the fact that they could have easily gotten a brawl right there and no one could have done anything, because no one's gonna shoot a gun in a flying plane. No one's that dumb. So there are a lot of little things in this film that are just kind of really dumb. But then again, if you enjoy Nicolas Cage films, you see it all the time. So I was like, this director is an absolute fan of Nicolas Cage. He has seen all his films. Oh, and it made me want to rewatch Con Air. It made me want to watch Face Off. It made me want to watch The Rock. It made me want to watch just every single one, because I just felt like, oh, this is Nicolas Cage. Yeah, of course, honestly, if you want to do a standalone, I would have preferred the Nick Cage version. Honestly, it's far more concise. There's not an extra fluff. It's just the ending. Again, the ending is what makes this whole movie worth it. It absolutely redeems the film, because other than that, I would have absolutely been aggravated with how this film ended. But yeah, thank you for recommending it. And honestly, I'm happy that I sat through it long enough, because I was thinking of cutting it off. 40 minutes into the film. I was thinking of cutting it off halfway through the film. I was thinking of cutting it off before it even got to the end because there was nothing for me. There was absolutely nothing because everything I was complaining about just made no sense, especially in the terms with Face Off. But then you get to the very end and it's like, oh, okay, it kind of justifies some things, not everything, but some things, which is why in the end I was like, okay, I had fun with the movie, but it took me an hour and 40 minutes to get to the end to be like, okay, I enjoy this film. Thank you all for watching. Talk to you next time. Toodles.